toddler, one of the toddler teachers, there are two of us over in the Child Development Center on 48th Street. I don't get to see as many of you as I used to because of the way things have changed. So I love to get the opportunity to come in and speak with you during the seminars and also sometimes during Dr. Kirby's classes. So if anyone ever wants to see how to work with really young children, I never in a million years thought that I was going to be a toddler teacher, but now I've been doing it for 10 years and I'm absolutely in love and could not and would not imagine myself doing anything else at this point. But when I was in your shoes, you would not have heard me say that. I did not do a rotation in the toddler room. I did it in the 2-year-old room and absolutely loved it. But when I first walked in, I said, this isn't what I'm going to do. And if you ask Ms. Deutsch, she would say the same thing. Anyone's in her class. She was in my class and she said the same thing. I'm never going to do this. I'm never going to do this. And that was her mantra when she walked in the door. And by the time she left and then came back as one of the toddler teachers, she very happily came over and said, you're right. I did want to do this. So, never say never. So if anybody ever wants to come over and see us, we're over on the 48th Street side, right across from the Student Rec Center. And you're welcome to just come on in, let them know that you're a practicing student, sign a little tiny book, and you can come into any of our classes if you don't mind. Except between 1 and 3, that's when you but I can give you a tour. As she was saying, I was one of Dr. Kersey's students. She's definitely my mentor. I have learned and grown so much from her philosophies and her teachings, and I hope that you guys have been getting a little bit of that, as you've been going through the program. I did not come to ODU. I went through ODU undergrad, graduate, and now working here. But I did not come here originally to be a teacher. I first came to ODU thinking that I was going to be a curator of art. I wanted to work around art. I love art. I've always loved art. Took art history class in high school and fell in love. And so I've always been interested in that aspect of my education and wanted to come here to do that. Well, then they showed me all of the things that I needed to, requirements that I needed to fulfill, and said, okay, maybe, and one of them was to learn a language. Not my forte. I can speak a little bit of Spanish from high school, but I really had to become fluent in a language, and it wasn't happening. And Spanish wasn't one of the languages that they wanted to become fluent in. So I went to my next love, which, and equal in part was loving children. Always loved children, always around children. I was the oldest in my neighborhood, so I was babysitter. Everybody knocked on my door. It was fun to come and have so many little people adore you all the time. So I fell in love with that as well, and decided to come in to early childhood program. Came all the way through, did IDS, did early childhood under Dr. Kersey, came through my practicum here, and luckily got a long-term sub-position here, which then in turn turned into a full-time position. So I didn't always work in the toddler room. I did work in the 3-year-old room first, worked there for 2 years, and then went into the toddler room after that. One of the things that I have brought with me, and one thing that Dr. Kersey always encourages us to do as teachers, is to bring your passions into your teaching. The things that you're passionate about most. Well, one of the things that, other than children, that I was passionate about was art and art history. And knowing that I could do art every single day with a bunch of little kids who are just sponges was an amazing thought. So I started to do a lot of research in doing art, and then of course you walk into a toddler classroom and go, okay, what kind of art can they do? Or you get people who come in and say, I'm not an artist, I can't teach a kid how to do art. And so I had to start really kind of digging down deep into the research and seeing what I could pull out to help people get through, one, their fear of art, and two, help them understand what they could do with all ages, not just in really early childhood, but also in the public schools. You don't really get, the arts are usually the first things to go in public schools when budgets are cut. So then that makes it so that the teacher then becomes also the art teacher and the music teacher. So you need to be well-rounded and have a good understanding of what is important when it comes to doing art with young children, because eventually you may be teaching it. You never know that you were going to. All right, and so you have to get past that stigma of I'm not an artist. All right, because the reason why is because young children, and I'm talking any child, between the ages of birth through, 4 or 5 at least, and then a little bit They learn through doing. And so process art is where you really want to focus. Okay? And so that's what I'm going to focus on mainly today when we're talking, is the difference between what we call product art or arts and crafts, okay, and open-ended process art. All right? Can anybody tell me or have an idea of definition of what a craft is? A craft or a product art?
Maybe something that has pieces that you're supposed to put together and it's supposed to look a certain way.
Exactly. It's structured. It's very structured. Product art is very structured. It's going to look like something when it's done. Okay. And then process art is the opposite. It's unstructured. All right. You're guided by your senses. So an example of a craft or a product art would be like a birdhouse. Okay. There are specific places that you have to put things in order to make it look like a birdhouse. All right. An example of what a process art would be, like just freeform easel painting. Giving the kids paint and a piece of paper and letting them go for it. And dough manipulation, Play-Doh, things like that, manipulating Play-Doh. If you're taking something like Play-Doh, I'm getting it myself, sorry. We'll go to that in a minute. Very young children learn primarily through their senses, okay? So that's why that process art is really important. Art should be primarily a sensory experience until they begin to show interest in what we call visual literacy. And this is why I said process art is really, really important up to about 4 or 5. Sometimes even a little bit earlier than that, maybe 3. But that's when objects they see or create begin to represent a reality to them. Okay? And it's usually around like their ability to be able to speak and talk to you. So early 3s, late 3s, where they can really, tell you what it is that they're creating. All right, so things that they make and they see actually begin to represent something to them. I was sitting at the art easel with a couple of kids about a week ago, and my kids are finally now starting to speaking to me and talking to me, where I can understand what it is that they're saying, because I do teach toddlers, but most of mine are over 2 now. And they were making things at the art easel, and one little boy was just making circles over and over and over again. And when I asked him about his artwork, he told me that he was making Mickey Mouse. Now, those circles weren't put together to make it look like Mickey Mouse, but he knew that the Mickey Mouse was made up, or the symbol of Mickey Mouse was made up of circles. So he just kept doing circles all over his paper, and he kept saying Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. And so another child was painting on the easel, and all of a sudden he went from the top of his painting all around to the bottom, and he said elephant. And all he was talking about was the elephant's trunk, how the elephant trunk, and he said eat grass. So the elephant was eating grass. So I was able to piece together a conversation with him. Even though it was very limited on his part, I was able to understand what it was he was reading. He was able to talk to me about it. So we were having a visual literacy conversation, or art talk, which we'll talk about a little bit later. All right. So what we want to do is create meaningful art experiences through process art. Okay, because those meaningful art experiences are precursors to developing important skills and can help make connections to all modes of learning. Some of you are downstairs in the multi-age classroom, so you have 3, 4s, and 5s, right? All right, and then so you can do a lot of different activities through art that will help all of those ages and meet them where they are developmentally. Okay. Also, modes of learning. Does anybody know what the modes of learning are? Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theory. At all? You've heard of that? Where everybody kind of is a different learner. Some people say, I'm a math person, or I'm an English person. Those sort of things. It's the way you learn best. Some people are auditory learners, so the things that they hear, they learn quickly through things they hear. Some of them are visual learners, so things that they see. Some of them are kinesthetic learners, so how they move is the best way for them to learn. And when you're in a multi-age classroom like that, you will see, too, the different modes of learning. And through art, you can bring in all of those learners and help them to really grow and extend their learning. Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences means that everyone learns differently. So like I said, you've got someone who's a math person. Well, if I put a big glob of Play-Doh right in front of them and they start breaking it up into little tiny pieces, they're learning that something big can become something small by breaking it up. Okay? But they're also doing art at the same time. All right? So those types of things are really important to learn about. And it covers all modes of learning. Let me see. Literacy. If you're if you're an English person, put it that way, and you learn best through English type of and literacy type of activities. Scribbling and using any sort of art tool, that's the very first form of literacy. All right? Literacy begins as art. When the child first makes some art on a piece of paper, it's art to them. It's art. It's something that they're creating, but it's also the first beginning stages of literacy and literacy awareness. Okay? Fine motor skills, of course, are used to print, and so art is really important with that. It's a child's first written language. So I really love the quote by the artist Georgia O'Keeffe, because she said, I found that I could say things with color and shape that I couldn't say it any other way, things that I had no words for. Well, I work with little kids that don't have words. And so for them to be able to express themselves through art is really, really important. For them to be able to express themselves, period. To be able to do it through art, and to be able to help them do that through art is really eye-opening for me and for them. Because of the ability to be heard, which is really important for young people. Social emotional skills. I think you guys have ever heard of the art therapy, where the artists go in and do therapy with children who have some disabilities or emotionally have some issues with emotional skills. Art is really helpful in that aspect too, because it tells them about individuality and self-expression and making choices and self-discipline. And art can be an emotional release. If you're having a bad day, throwing some paint on a piece of paper really can help you, just to release your frustrations or your bad day. Science is really important too in the arts. The concept of change and observation is a really big science concept that you can put into the arts. History is huge. Of course, art history relates to events and people of other times and places and gives them a visual connection with those kinds of places when they can't be there themselves. Okay. Kinesthetic and musical learners, you can put music on while you have the paint out, and the kids can paint to the music. They can paint fast when the music goes fast. They can paint slow when the music goes slow. And you'll be surprised what type of music you put on affects how they create. It's really interesting to see. If you ever get the chance to do it, try it out. And art can be movement. I mean, you're standing at the easel, and you're moving your arms up and down, and especially when you're a little person and the easel's just as big as you are, you have to reach up high to get to the high parts of the paper and down low to the low parts of paper. Also putting the art in different places, putting the paper on the floor and having the kids paint or draw there, putting it underneath the table, taping the paper underneath the table and letting the kids lay on their backs and paint that way, like Michelangelo did in the Sistine Chapel. So it's a fun way to move your body and to change your perspective on things. Okay, so art can do all of those. All right, and art experiences can fit easily into any aspect of your curriculum. All right, so don't be afraid of it. It's a great way to bring in a lot of different parts of your curriculum. All right, so we talked about process art and product art, and how process art is the main important part of when we're doing art. You do have to have a good balance between the two. You have to have some process art and some product art. All right, because there are the people in this world who need structure and need discipline and need to feel like they can create something tangible, right? Or else we wouldn't have the construction workers or the architects or any of those types of people who can express themselves that way. So not all free-form art is necessary. And I'm not saying just process art, that's it. That's all you can do. I want you to do some product art, because parents also like to have something that goes home that says, oh, my kids are learning about cows today. Oh, look, it's a cow. And they can put it on the refrigerator. And it's like a cow. And anybody who walks in the door and say, oh, your kid is learning about cows. That's great. They need that. They need something they can take to their office and frame and put up and, those types of things. So I'm not saying totally nix the product art, but have a very good balance. Or have a way to create a product from a process, all right, which is something that you can do. So one of the things that you can do to facilitate process art, all right, in your classroom, and this is for any age, is one, make sure your environment is set up for it, all right? Your classroom needs to be set up in a way that promotes autonomous choices so the kids can do it themselves and also have easy cleanup. All right? If you notice in almost all of our classrooms, we don't have art, like the art easels and art activities located in the middle of a carpeted area. We have set up our room so that it's, one, your water source, because you're going to need to have easy cleanup. Two, usually on some sort of laminate floor or something in the room that's also easy, that can handle the drips and the glue and the paint and the sand and all of that stuff. So make sure that you have a spot in your classroom. And then even when you're teaching older kids, having a spot where they can freely go and during their free time, whether it be in the morning or in between time where they're waiting for something, where they can go and pull out a small individual piece of Play-Doh and start manipulating the piece of Play-Doh. If they're done with a test early, maybe they can go and get Play-Doh. It's a very quiet activity. They can go over to the art corner or art closet and pull out a drawer and have an individual piece of Play-Doh, a little bag of Play-Doh, bring it back to their desk and manipulate it and play with it. It's soothing, it's quiet, and it's something that they can do while they wait for the rest of their friends to finish their test. Okay? So having a space where they can go and get these things on their own is really, really important. All right, schedule. You need to make sure that you have an ample amount of time built into your day in which children can spend time in the process of creating something and fully complete their experience without disruption. Okay? So say that little boy who went and got that Play-Doh after he was done with his test and brought it back to his desk. Maybe you have a mat that they can put their Play-Doh on and play with so that when it's time to move on to something else, if he's not ready to smush up whatever it was he was creating and put it back in his baggie, then you can take the mat and put it into a safe spot so that it's there for him when he's ready to go back or when there's more time during the day to do it. Making sure that there is ample time and ample space for them to be able to have that experience without being disrupted. The materials that you have available need to be safe, they need to be developmentally appropriate, and they need to be varied in selection. Okay? So, things that you can do for kids with art. Now, this is just things that you can paint with. Alright? But this is what I want to talk to you about, varying the material. Things that you can paint with. So, we have a typical paintbrush, right? But you can vary the paintbrush by using, they make these paintbrushes too, but you can actually get like a shaving kit and use a shaving cream. I don't think people do that anymore. But anyway, you can find these anywhere, and usually in art stores too, but different types of art brushes are really important. So this was a baster that I found at the dollar store for barbecue. I thought it was really cool, a little mini mop. But the kids dip it in paint and use it on the paint bar. It's just a different fun tool to paint with. Okay. Food. But I sometimes bring it into the classroom as an art activity, as a different type of paint. Okay, so the heads of celery are great, especially when you're working with really young children, because it's strong, and so when they're mashing it down into the paint pot and putting it up on the paper, they're not breaking the piece of vegetable or fruit that you have available to them. But fruit is really cool to use. You can use apples or oranges or lemons. Using them as stamps are really great activities. I like to stick something in them like a fork or a popsicle stick so the kids have something to hold on to, because once they start stamping things, especially fruit, it gets very slippery and the paint gets on them, and you don't get the what you're looking for, the product that you're looking for when we're talking about process. So stick something in it, so they have something to hold on to when they're using it as a stamp. Broccoli is really fun. We've used that heads of broccoli to paint with. The tops of carrots, they're a little flimsy, and the paint kind of flies everywhere, but it's still fun too when you can find carrots that have tops on them in the grocery store. Bingo dabbers are great. These old, like I said, I don't even know if they make these anymore either, but the roll-on antiperspirant bottles that we used to, the deodorant bottles they used to use, you could fill it with paint and roll the paint on that way. Now they actually make paint rollers, but we used to have to get really creative a long time ago, so this is what we had. I have a wall in my classroom that is where my art activities happen. And what I did was, one of my practicum students did a unit on construction, and he brought in, I don't know what you call it, the stuff they make walls out of, and attached it, what was it, plaster? No, it's not
Drywall.
plaster. Drywall. It's like, yeah, I think it was drywall. and put it up against my wall. He hammered it in, and so it's there permanently. Well, not really, but it's there. And let the kids paint on it. Well, I loved it so much I left it up. It's a great showing of process art, and also it's just a permanent fixture in my classroom now. And the kids paint over it. So every year we paint over it again. But we went ahead and used different tools to paint with. So we got a toy hammer and hot glue is a teacher's best friend, hot glued a sponge to the tip of it. So they dip it in the paint and then hammer on the wall. The kids loved it. They sat there forever just hammering on the wall. Okay? And they make all these rollers and all sorts of things for now for you to use too. But just get creative. Think outside the box. Toothbrushes, great for older kids. Not so much for the little tiny ones because they, of course, use it literally, and so they'll dip it in the paint and then stick it in their mouth. So you have to be really careful when you're working with the really little ones. But older kids, they love this. When we do our dentist week, our dental health week, we have, usually we'll cut it out of yellow paper or something, yellow teeth, and then they'll paint white. They'll paint the tooth white with a toothbrush. So they get it eventually, but we do have the occasional going in the mouth. So anything that they find outside, feathers, of course, you can get natural feathers outside, or if you need to, or kind of grossed out by the whole natural feather thing, you can get feathers in any of the craft stores and use them to paint. Okay, so just think outside the box. Don't just stay with the, painting means paintbrush. Okay, there's a lot of different things that they can paint with. This was fun. We're getting ready to do Arctic animals, and one of the things we did was huskies. And my kids, they're still little, they don't really understand what a husky is and what a dog sled is, so I try to get them to understand it by attaching a roller to a little toy dog with pipe cleaner, and they use the dog to drag it through the snow and paint with it that way. So it's my own little dog sled paintbrush combination. This is a horse's tail. And all it is just string attached to the top, tied there, and they swish it. We were talking about swishing. So we were working on their vocabulary, building the vocabulary. And so this was the horse's tail that was swishing, and so they were able to paint with the swishing horse's tail.